I'm with Coach Dave Miller, head coach of the Fairmont Firebirds. Another opponent coming up this week
Yep.
at home.
Yep.
So,
Yep.
a little bit better.
Yep.
Let's start with your 38-3 win over Miamisburg. Let's start with the defense. Only 175 yards for Miamisburg. And another name we have not mentioned this year is Davion Reed, who led in total Rand.
Yeah.
Thank you. Davion Rand.
Yeah.
I was so worried about messing up his first name,
That's all
but
right.
I screwed up the second one.
No problem.
But anyway, he led in total tackles with 10. What did you see from him in this game or for the entire year?
He's progressively gotten better. You know, he flies around. He's really become a pretty good player, a pretty good free safety. You know, sure tackler, one of our better open field tacklers. So, you know, typically if your free safety's making a lot of tackles, that's not necessarily good unless they're throwing the ball a lot, you know, or is making tackles in the secondary. But, you know, they got through a couple times and he had to make some tackles there too. Just kind of, you know, that's why he's there, you know, to make up for the, if we miss a tackle up front. And he's done a good job. He's really matured. I would say that's the key word with him. He's become a player, you know, so doing a great job for us.
A defensive touchdown in this game with Caleb Moore, intercepting a pass and taking it back 35 yards.
Yeah.
Tell us what led to the success of that play.
Well, he's standing right there if you want to ask him, but it's Caleb Moore. He just broke. He made a nice break on her. You know, good read. Maybe should have gotten out a little quicker, but he did a nice job breaking up on the ball and getting in the end zone. So you know, Caleb's solid. He's one of our locker guys. You know, just not the most vocal guy on the team, but a really hard worker, and you know, he's come a long way, you know, from his sophomore year and started for us, 2-year starter, and just, you know, did a nice job. You know, he broke up on it and, you know, got us 38 or 37 points and added the extra point to make it 38. So.
Offensively, another big passing play in this game was a 45-yard touchdown pass from J.J. Hill to Nolan Stringer. What led to the success of that play?
Well, they were doing some things defensively that, you know, kind of left that open. He's standing right there too, Nolan Stringer is, but so these guys are the dip group. They come out and get extra dips in, but you know, it was there. They kind of played, kind of caught us early. You know, we had a couple plays there. We hadn't seen something like that really, and it took us a minute to adjust to it. But you know, just bringing one more guy than they probably should have, and we took advantage of it. So you know, there were 2 in a row, both, you know, JJ to Nolan, and so, you know, pretty good plays.
Overall, how pleased were you with a game that only had 3 penalties and 1 turnover?
That's good. You know, too many turnovers. Obviously, one's too many, but. You know, we talked about that. That series there was not our best. We had 3 plays in a row. We had 9, and then we went 3 plays in a row and couldn't get a yard. You know, and fumbled on the 4th. But so, you know, some things we could take away that we could do better. We've been playing, you know, I think pretty consistent. You know, with not making a lot of stupid mistakes. You know, we had the 1 penalty. You know, where we got downfield on a big pass play from Cameron to Kyber. That put us down on the 20 right before the half, but you know, outside of that, and you know, kicking one out of bounds, and we had the low block on the defensive end there. Pretty clean game.
All right, and one of your penalties was tackle below the waist. Now our crew was debating that, not the call itself, but exactly what that meant.
It's not a tackle below the waist. It was a block. So the way it goes both sides. I mean, you can have defensive holding, you can have offensive holding. There's a cut zone that's tackle to tackle, basically a 3-yard area, and essentially the way they do it now is it's immediately off the snap. It's legal for you to go low as long as it's not a high-low. If you're the only guy going low or everybody's low and you're doing it right off the snap, that's legal. I mean, we call it scoop blocks on the backside, and you know, our guard and our tackle are going to come through those gaps immediately, and we'll cut. You know, so that's legal. What happened was Chewy Price, you know, came in. He was low. His pad level was really good, but he got too low. Was below the waist, you know, with the lead blocker. So that is illegal. You can't do that. If he had done that, you know, a lot of times people do that to our line too. They'll just cut us, you know, off the snap, and that's fine. It's the stuff where you're coming from a distance that's where people get hurt, so that's illegal.
So let's do something different this time. Instead of talking about this week's opponent, Northmont, let's talk about a typical week for you. The game ends on a Friday night. Do you immediately review the film that night before practice Saturday? And how closely do you pay attention to the Saturday 10 a.m. junior varsity game?
Very closely on that answer. We take a lot of pride in our younger guys and developing them. So both JVA, JVB. There's been times in the past I've been able to go and watch them away. It's all hands on deck with us at home. So typical night for me. I don't really sleep on Fridays. I think most coaches don't. I may get a couple hours, but it's hard to. Win or loss, you're kind of thinking about the game. You can't turn it off immediately. So I'll go home, I'll watch it one time through, just kind of with nobody there, and just watch the entire game. By then I'm starting to nod off a little bit, so I'll go get a couple hours, and then I'll get back up, and then I grade it for my position groups, which are essentially quarterbacks, fullbacks. If I get done early with that, I take a deeper look. We come in on Saturdays and we call it the sleep deprived assessment. So we go around the room with our coaches and they all kind of give assessments of what they thought the night before, whether it's their personnel group or just in general. Our kids come in at 8. When we do have home JV games, we condition our guys on Saturday mornings. They have a recovery run, we call it, and a workout and a stretch, and they do a good job with that. It's kind of player led. Coach Feldmeyer is our strength coach. He with Coach McDonald and some of the other guys that are not involved with the JVs are out, working them out. And then we go back in, we watch our film. That usually gets us out just before half of the JVA. Our varsity guys, we've done better with this. Last week was not great. We talked about what, that should look like in supporting these guys, and it's just being there, helping the young guys, kind of acting as coaches in a way, helping the coaching staff out. The older guys are supposed to be doing that, and having their back as they had our back the night before. I mean, you talk about penalties. I think we picked one up, for them. They had a false start with the wide out on our sideline, and it was because our sideline was going crazy over there. So I think he had a tough time hearing the quarterback, and it helped, make a 4th and 5 into a 4th and 10. It's easier to defend that. So we expect the same things out of our varsity guys, and then once our JVA is done, they go in, we talk to them after the game with the older guys in there with them, and there's kind of a good summary there, with Friday night, maybe something we missed, in our meeting in the morning with the kids. And we kind of talk through the game, and then the JVA guys, as soon as they're done, they go out and they support JVB. When we're on the road, it's a little different because we're here, we usually get out here a little earlier, but it's a program, and I think our guys have bought into that, and I think do a pretty good job with it.
During the week, when do you put in the game plan for the next opponent, and how do you obtain film to watch that next opponent?
Well, we trade film. That's a conference rule. Usually the out of conference is the same. We trade up to three films or more. So we basically get, usually midweek, we're trading with the next opponent. We get 2 films, and then we're going to trade the night, the night of, or next morning by 10 a.m. So all of our kids have that over the weekend. We leave here on Saturdays. I think all of us kind of need, I know I do. I go home after that, and I totally unplug. I have to just forget everything, and that's my wife's time. So I spend time with her Saturday night, and then we start up Sunday morning, and I think me and the other coaches, we're breaking down film, and I'm pretty much all day Sunday. And then we meet that night, as a staff about 7, and then usually those go till about 8:30. And then the next day on Monday, we put the game plan in with the kids and everything after we've discussed it as a staff. And then it's it's pretty typically Monday's longer than Tuesday. Tuesday's longer than Wednesday typically, and then Thursday's kind of a tune-up, and then we play on Friday. So do it all over again.
Okay, and finally, time management has to be vital to you. How do you separate the time that you spend as a football coach versus the time you spend in the classroom and developing lesson plans?
I mean, it's hard. The good thing is, I've been doing this long enough in the classroom too that I've got, and I'm U.S. history here at Fairmont, and I love that. It's another passion, so it's hard, being a high school football coach. There's so much more involved than just, at the college level. They're football coaches. There's some cases where I think at smaller schools they'll do some other stuff in the classroom, but there's not enough hours in the day. I just, I don't sleep much during the season. I kind of catch up, I think, Saturday night into Sunday, although I get up Sunday morning usually about 3, 4 o'clock and I'm going. But so, I'm not going to complain. It's you got a passion for it. As long as I have that passion, I'll keep doing it. But there's a lot. I counted it up one year, and I was getting interviewed by Trey Baker. He was a former player, and one of his classes, he asked how many hours I put in per week. I'd never thought about it, so I went home and really just started thinking about how many hours go into it. And it's about 96, when you're talking about football. And then you got to prepare for classes, and then have time for your family. It's like my wife is great. She's a football, we call my head coach called her when we got married. She became a football widow because during football season, it's like she knows the deal and does a great job supporting me and stuff. And I think all coaches' wives are like that, but it's a lot. So, but it's worth it. I love it and love helping these kids. That's really what it's all about. So if I can help them be better young men, then, good. I've done a good job then.
All right, Coach. Well, that's all I got for you for today, and I wish you good luck on Friday night.
Thank you. Appreciate it.